which is what do you think about? Tonight we're gonna do, you being the author that you are, I thought you might want to weigh in on this. What do you think about book to movie adaptations?
Yeah, it's a really loaded topic. But that
It
said,
really is.
so I think I can safely say that 90% of them are hot garbage. The only category
Yep.
that's worse is video game movie adaptations. Like
Yep.
it's like, oh gosh, those like 98% of those are terrible. Um, but well, no spoilers, but for date night, me and my wife went and saw Dune 2.
Okay.
Uh, I guess like 3 weeks ago. Um, did not get the sandworm popcorn bucket. Really, really wanted it, but like they wanted like $40 for it or something like that, and it's like
Oh.
I'm not,
Well,
I'm not
is
paying
it
$40 for
was it one of
novelty
those
stuff.
ones where you can bring it back and get cheap refills with it or
If
something?
if it did not give me a massage as I stuck my hand in the sandworm's mouth, I was not going. It was not worth it. It was real cool looking. So that one though, that was honestly that was the only movie that I've seen that improves on the book in a
Really?
lot of. Now, I'm not going to say it's better than the book. The book overall is better, but um, Dune 1 was good. It was really good. Like I don't know, 8 out of 10. Um, Dune 2 was like 9.75 out of 10. And it was really there's only one scene in that whole movie that I was just not really jiving with. But um there were parts of it I was like, this is better than the book.
See, I haven't
Um
read the book yet. My brother-in-law gave me, well, I know it's multiple books, but my brother-in-law gave me the first book for Christmas and I need to get around to reading it. But
Yeah, you will. It's one of those you'll either love it or hate it. There's
okay.
not. I don't know many people that are kind of. It's all right. It's a very it's a very different book. Um, but man, that one like it was exceptional. It really tackled like it kind of focused on some slightly different things than what the book focused on, and did it in really cool ways, and I loved that. Um, but then there are others that are just hot garbage. But what I will say
Yep.
is if I watch the movie first, I don't mind nearly as much that it's not as good.
Yeah, because then you read the book and you're like, oh yeah, this is really good.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like I saw Annihilation.
I
Um
haven't
it,
seen that one.
it came out I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, maybe. Now time is a flat circle. I'm terrible with years. Um and so it came out in the past decade. Um, and it was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. And then I went and read the book, and the book was totally different in so many ways. And the book was better, but it was one of those almost like if you just viewed them as two totally different things. If you had not told me that Annihilation the movie was based on Annihilation the book, I'd have been like, oh, that was kind of similar. That's something kind of similar, but this was really good. Um, so yeah.
See, and I really like what have you ever read Ready Player One?
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
really like towards the beginning of that book, it has a comment in there like there have been so many adaptations of this story. This is me setting it straight. And so I'm like, okay, well the movie's just an adaptation that's not right because the book said it's not right.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Uh, Dark Tower did something kinda like that. The miniseries that they did here not long
okay.
ago, I think, or maybe it was a movie, I don't know. I have not read all the Dark Tower, so I didn't make a point of watching that, but what I was told is they made a conscious decision that for those who don't know, the Dark Tower, it's cyclical. It's kind of like the wheel of time, the turning of the wheel.
Okay.
Similar kind of structure there. And so they were like, oh, this was just another turning of the world. So yeah, there are differences from the books, but that's because this is not
It's
telling the
not
story
that
of the
turn.
books. Yeah, it's not that turning of the wheel. This is a different turning. So if people do things like that and they make conscious decisions around that, I think you can do some really cool stuff with it. Most
Yeah.
folks just don't do that, you know.
Yeah. Well, and there's too many, way too many times, and this isn't just book to movie adaptations, this is just Hollywood in general, where the people attached to the project, all they care, now they should care about profits to a certain extent, but there's times where all they care about is profits. They have no respect for the source material at all, and it's very evident in their work that they do, like DC I think is one of the most egregious ones when it comes to that, because they're like, oh, it feels like they've googled what are some of the best things in the comics, and then they read the little synopsis on it and they hodgepodge things together and say, okay, that's our movie.
Yeah.
That's and yeah.
So I had a buddy that, and it I find it to be somewhat less so in movies than in shows. In shows, especially any show that's an adaptation, the what he was telling me, and this makes a lot of sense, is what ends up happening is there's a screenwriter out there who wants to tell a story, and then they get attached to this adaptation, this project, and then they're like, okay, well, how can I make this IP fit the story I want to tell, rather than trying to tell the story that the IP was
Uh-huh.
trying to tell. Like, oh, let me tell my story, and I'm just going to shoehorn in all these tropes. That
That
actually, I'm a huge True Detective fan. All right, True
okay.
Detective season 1 is the single best season of television ever created. Come at me, I'll fight you. We don't talk about season 2. Season 3 was really good, and then season 4 came out, and season 4 is tonally quite different, and because as it turns out, the showrunner pitched a horror miniseries to HBO, and HBO was like, "Hey, this could be a True Detective. Let's make it a True Detective."
Okay.
And that's what happened. So it got a lot of backlash. I have not finished it yet, because I'm terrible with time management. But what I saw was really good, but it did feel quite different, because it was much more horror oriented than True Detectives 1, 2, and 3 were. So, um,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
it's real good though. It's real
I,
good.
I mean, as far as book to movie adaptations, I think it's probably pretty safe to say that the general public considers the Lord of the Rings trilogy to probably be the gold standard when it comes
Oh
to a good adaptation.
yeah,
So, I
yeah,
mean, what Peter Jackson did there, regardless of any gripes of what he cut, because he those books are huge. He had to
yeah,
cut stuff.
yeah.
Um, he his love for the project really shines through in it. And um in my feed lately in Facebook, I've been getting some interviews with some of the cast members and talking about just how passionate Peter Jackson was for it, and telling them like, this is gonna be what I am known for. Like this will be
Yeah.
amazing. We are going to change cinema, and
Yeah.
I, he delivered. Not so much on
Well,
The Hobbit, but on Lord of the Rings,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, the problem there was tonally, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit are very different books, very very different books, and also The Hobbit's a lot shorter, and
well,
so
and it's my understanding that because he wasn't originally attached to that project, he got brought in partway through, and the stories that I heard was that he was writing the script like the night before,
yeah, Wasn't
before
it
they shot. So
wasn't it
like
originally like Guillermo del Toro was supposed to originally direct it or something like that, and then he backed out? But yeah,
maybe.
I'd heard something like that he was not meant to direct it, because why would you? Like, you've already kind of set the gold standard. You're not going
Yeah.
to improve on that, especially when your source material is The Hobbit, which I actually love more than Lord of the Rings. But they're very different books.
Yeah. Yep.
um, but
So,
I'm actually somewhat kind of going through this right now. I am actually a screenwriter uh, came in and turned my series into a pilot. It is currently shopping it around.
oh,
So look, the likelihood of this ever getting made is like 0.001, but
hey,
it's a cool
but
thing.
the fact that a
But
screenwriter is interested, that's pretty
yeah,
awesome.
she did, she did work on one of the. I don't want to reveal who she is in case this never goes anywhere, but she did work on a season of True Detective, which when I found out, I was like, oh my god. But she's done, she's done stuff. But anyway, so she's very much like in the know, and so like I've been getting a lot of insight into like the screenwriter's perspective on how some of these things come to be. And yeah, it's kind of awful.
Oh man.
If you ever read The Godfather, Mario Puzo, you know, wanted to write the screenplays for his books and like didn't get to do it. And you see a lot of that bitterness coming onto the page where any scene involving like the Hollywood stuff, especially like how the screenwriters get abused and stuff like that. It's a real interesting read, especially when you know the background of Mario Puzo and kind of the struggles he was undergoing with trying to break into that industry. So
Okay.
yeah.
So we've heard some mixture of good versus bad adaptations. Do you have any that you would consider like the absolute worst book to movie adaptation that you can think of?
Oh man, the absolute worst.
If you want to spend some time thinking about it, I've got it. I've
Yeah.
got one on
Yeah.
mine.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
for me, it's got to be Aragon.
Okay.
That was atrocious. Have you ever read Aragon?
No.
Okay.
I was a little older. I was a
Okay.
little older than the target market when it came out, so I
Got
missed
it.
that one.
Yeah. So Aragon, that book, I read that book long before the movie came out, and it's a very good book, especially when you consider that the author was 15 when he wrote it.
Yeah.
And so very, very good book. Um, the movie. So you talked about how if you see the movie first and then read the book, oftentimes that's a much better experience, at least as far as enjoying both mediums goes.
Mm.
And that was definitely the case for my wife. She had seen Aragon and she was like, "Oh yeah, it's okay." As a generic fantasy, okay is about right. But once you read the book, you're like, "Oh, that was horrible." Like, just some for instances. There is a race in there called the Urgles. They're kind of orc-ish, but they've got like ram horns on their heads, and yeah, so they're kind of orc-ish. In the movie, they're just barbarians, and then in the it like everybody's human in the movie. Like the elves are humans, they're just skinnier humans. The dwarves are just a little bit shorter humans, and so it's like everybody is human, and it's yeah.
Yeah.
Which really sucks because as far as casting goes, I think they actually did a good job casting it. They just they failed in the writing section where they were converting it to a screenplay.
Yeah.
So
No, I can see that. I was trying to think. So the first one that came to mind, and this is kind of a weird one because this is one where I saw the movie before I read the book, And I still low key love this movie, but now having read the book, I realized this was a god awful adaptation, but it was just fun. Um, was Starship Troopers.
Okay.
Yeah,
I've never read the book.
it's very different. The book is, I don't know, it's military sci-fi, one of the earliest ones. Is really seminal work. Um, but there's a lot of like it's really trying to make a statement on like politics and patriotism and it it's really trying to make a kind of a heavy statement through the military sci-fi lens. And then you get Starship Troopers, which is that is the movie is not that. It's a lot of fun. It's a very fun movie. But it is not what Heinlein what he wrote um at all. Um ugh.
Okay.
um the, I had this thought too. The only other movie, really the only movie I can think of that the movie is absolutely better than the book is Jaws. Um,
Oh.
the book is good. Jaws is better.
Okay.
The movie is just better. The only thing, and like mild spoilers, but this book is like 60 years old at this point. Get
Yeah.
over it. Um, there's a if you've seen the movie, the mayor, there's an interesting like subplot that the mayor is the reason he does the things that he does is because he owes money to the mob. Like the mob is kind of forcing him to
Okay.
keep the city open. And the other thing is Hooper and Chief Brody's wife have an affair. So
Oh.
which adds a layer.
Yeah.
Um, but
A layer
overall,
of friction.
Jaws the movie, so much better, so much better. Um, so yeah, that's the only one I could think of that was actively much better than the book. So
All right. Well, there we go.
yeah,
Well, this has been an excellent conversation. Before we move on, though, Random Kid mentioned not a book adaptation, but M. Night's Avatar movie was horrible. Yeah, no, that's very accurate. In
yeah.
the Avatar community, there is no movie in Ba Sing Se. So,
Nice. Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan, like he started so strong, and then man, the wheels fell off. But he started kind of coming back and making some decent movies again. So maybe there's hope for him yet.
we'll
But yeah,
see.
we don't Avatar. Like, in what world do you pick M. Night Shyamalan to direct the Avatar movie? Like, just in what world does that make any sense?
None whatsoever. Bizarro world.
Yeah, yeah. An M. Night Shyamalan movie is the only place where it makes sense that you would pick M. Night Shyamalan to direct Avatar. Ugh.
Oh man.